Good afternoon, everybody. So this is a short tutorial just to explain the concept of algorithms to some students who are not understanding the concept of algorithms very well. You need to know what algorithm is. Algorithm is a set of steps to accomplish task, okay, to accomplish a specific task or to solve a problem. So algorithm, just you can think about algorithm as set of steps, okay. If I want to solve any problem or to accomplish any task in computer particularly, we call it the steps that we make are called algorithm. For example, I will give very simple example. If I want to add or find the addition or the summation of two numbers, so what are the steps that are to be taken in order to accomplish this task? So the first point, I need to input the values. So I need to input two numbers, right? So we write input two numbers, right? Two numbers, for example, we can name them number 1 or num1 and num2. So we can write input num1 and input num2. Then after we made this, the first step, which is taking the input, we can make a task, we can make the next step, which is finding the addition. I can make a variable called sum. Then I assign the value. Which value to sum? The addition of num1 and num2. Okay, so the addition of num1 and num2, I can say num1 plus num2. Okay, this will be assigned to the summation. Then I will print the result, which is the sum. Just print, okay, print sum. So, and that's it. So algorithm is a set of steps. We can just write these steps in details, or we can represent these steps using either a pseudocode or a flowchart. So, and the pseudocode is something looks like programming language code, but it doesn't have, pseudocode doesn't have a strict rules like the programming languages. So you can use your own words. Okay, for input we can use input or read, for example. Okay, now let's talk about pseudocode. Flowchart is a graphical representation of the pseudocode. Okay, I'm just going to talk about the pseudocode, how to write a pseudocode. If you know what are the logical steps for solving a problem, okay, then you will be able to write a pseudocode. In order to be able to write a pseudocode, you need to understand some, I don't want to say terminologies, but some of elements of any algorithm or pseudocode. You need to know what are the operators that we use. For example, we use assignment operator. This is one of the most important parts of algorithm, assignment. Okay, assignment operator. In algorithm we use the left arrow, okay, for assignment, to denote assignment. Okay, and what does we mean when I say, for example, here sum, and we assign the value of num1 plus num2 to sum? That means we calculate this value on the right side, then we assign it to the variable on the left side. Here there is a point. Any variable that I'm going to use, you can imagine it as a container, okay? Any variable. So if I'm going to find the summation, as in our example here, summation of two numbers, I need to know how many variables do I need to accomplish this task. So I need three variables: the first number, the second number, and another variable for the result. So you can imagine any variable as a container. So a container for num1, num2, okay, and the sum. Then we ask the user to input num1, okay? So when the user, if we dry run this, okay, when the user input the value of num1, suppose that he entered 5 in num1, okay, then he entered 3 in num2. Then when this step comes to be executed, okay, here we have num1 plus num2, the content of this variable num1, which is 5, plus the content of num2, which is 3, it will be 8. So the value will be calculated as 8, then assigned to sum. Okay, so sum will contain the value 8. Then the print will print sum as output. Okay, and this is the basic of every computer program. So these are the steps. In order to be able to write algorithms very well, you need to be aware of the different operators like assignment operator and the arithmetic operators. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, also the mode, or we use here for mode. Later we will talk about this. Okay. Also, you need to be aware of other types of operators like the relational operators and logical operators, the greater than, less than, greater than or equal, less than or equal, equals. Okay, here in algorithm we use this equals, and not equal. Okay, we use it this way. Also, you need to be aware of other operators like logical and or, okay, and not. We might talk about this later. Okay. So if you know these operators, you can start writing pseudocode or algorithms. Also, you need to know the selection statements. Okay, selection statements or structures like the if then, okay, if statement, okay, if then statement, if then, okay, and the case of. Okay, so we call this selection statements. And we have the repetition structures. The repetition, if we are going to repeat some steps, more than once, okay, or several times, we will use the repetition structures, okay, such as the for next we call it, or while do, or repeat until. Okay, and I think most of you are aware of that. So if you know these things, so you should be able to write a pseudocode or an algorithm using pseudocode, but you have to know how to arrange your ideas, or how to solve the problem and represent it using pseudocode. Okay, thus I want to add one more page here. So I have an example I got it from the end of chapter examples from the book. Okay, so here we have a problem or question. We can say, okay, a school is doing a check on the heights and weights of all its students. Okay, the school has 1,000 students. Okay, write an algorithm using pseudocode or a flowchart. Okay, we are going to use pseudocode, which inputs the height and weight of all 1,000 students. So now, how I think of that? We need two variables, right? We need a variable for height and another variable of weight. Okay, and these need to be inputted by the user. Okay, and we have 1,000 students. How we input 1000 values, we use repetition, right? We can use for, while, or repeat. Okay, repeat until. So the best loop for this or repetition structure for this, it seems to be for loop. Okay, so we use for loop. You can use while or repeat until. Anyway, the for loop here is most straightforward. Okay, and what is the output? Is the average of the height and the weight. So we need to find the average height and average weight of all these 1000 students. Okay, so how to find that? We need to make summation. We need to find the sum of all heights and sum of all weights. Then we divide the sum of heights by 1000 and divide the sum of weights by 1000. So we get the average. So we have two variables for average for height and average for weight to get the averages of height and weight, and includes any necessary error traps for the input of height and weight. Of course, what do we mean with error traps? Now, height and weight, for example, height should not be in minus, or for students, for example, in some level, they should not be less than, we can say, 30 centimeters. No person on the earth is shorter than 30 centimeters, right? We can use 0 as a limit because we cannot take height or weight as negative values. Okay, one more thing, the height also of any person on the earth, it will not exceed 300 centimeters, right? And this is logical. No person on the earth is more than 300. Okay, and 300 is too much. And weight, okay, we can also limit it to 300 because no one will be more than 300. Let's make it 400. Okay, so this is the error traps for input. Okay, for the input of height and weight, we can limit them. So what do I need? I need how many variable? I need to input the height and the weight for each student. So first we need to put this in a loop. So we can say we can make a counter. Okay, for should be in capital letter. Anyway, for we can make a counter. Okay, that has the value of 1. Okay, to how much? 1000. Okay, so here in the for loop, from 1 to 1000, what should we do? We should input the height and input the weight. Then we need to add them to the summation. Okay, we need to find the summation. So before we write the for loop, we must have a variable called sum and assigned to 0 at the beginning, because we are going to use it to add values on the sum. Okay, so so this step will be repeated 1000 times. We will input each height and each weight and add it to sum. So I need to have two sums, sum for height and sum for weight. Okay, sum W. So we have sum H and sum W. Each one, the initial value is 0. Then we can prompt the user to input the height and weight. Okay, so we can write input. We can prompt the user. Let me prompt the user to input the values. Okay, what's wrong with this? I don't know why the eraser doesn't work on this. Okay, now it works. Okay, so we need to prompt the user. I will write print enter the height, the height of, for example, student. Okay, and counter here. So it will print student 1 at the first time. Okay. Then we will input the height. So we can write input height. Okay, after the user inputs the height, okay, here we need to put something which is validation, because height shouldn't be in negative. Okay, so we can use the structure. If we want to add validation, we can write repeat. Okay, repeat and input height until the height, okay, is greater than 0. Okay, also there is no person with the height equals to 0. So this is a validation, because if the user entered a negative value, it will prompt him to enter again. So also we can put here the print, we can put the repeat here. Okay, so repeat, it will prompt the user to input, and he will input the height. Okay, if the condition is true, okay, it will exit, so it will take the height. The same thing we will do for the weight. Okay, the same thing will be for the weight. So we will input the weight, okay, and we will put it inside repeat until, to make sure that the weight is greater than 0. Okay, so we write repeat, repeat, and here we prompt the user print enter the weight of student, okay, and we give it the counter just to print the number of the students, student 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay, and input weight. Okay, and here the repeat until what? The height, the weight, okay, is greater than 0. Okay, we should include what? It should be here also the height greater than 0 and less than, you can say, and less height less than, let's say, 300, because it's illogical to add, for example, a person who reaches 300 centimeters or 3 meters. Okay, so the value should be between 0 and 300. Okay, so the same thing here for the weight. We can put and weight is less than 300 or 400. Okay, so this is more logical. Okay, and we call this validation. Now after we get the input, the height and the weight, so we can just wait, I'm going. Now we can add the value of heights to sum. Okay, so we can say sum, we assign the value of what? Equals to sum. We call this totaling. This step we call it totaling. Sum plus what? The height. Okay, and sum h, the sum of height, sum h, and sum of w, sum weight, equals here sum h, and here sum w plus weight. So this will be repeated, this step or this process will be repeated how many times? 1000 times. Okay, and we put here next. Next is the close, okay, or the closing of the for loop. Okay, after this repetition finished, we can find the average. Okay, so we can write average of height and average of weight. So we can write average average h, let's say, equals to what? Sum divided by how many students we have? 1000. And same thing, the average of weights, average w, we assign the value of sum here, sum h, and here sum w by 1000. Then after we find the average, we can just print them. So we write print, okay, average heights of the students, the average height of the students. Okay, we can see is, and here average h, and the same thing here for the average average weight of the students is the same thing here, average h. Of course, here I had written average. I didn't follow the standards that the keywords like print input should be in capital. Okay, this is just like a standard. The variable names, for example, here the a should be capital. Okay, so in pseudocode we don't focus on that actually. So this is how we can write an algorithm. If you have any other questions, you can ask. Thank you very much.